video we're going to deselect the board games that I no longer gravitate towards. With everything going on in life, I only want to keep the games that I completely enjoy. Enjoy! However, over the past decades, more and more items entered my household, and now I have more that I'm comfortable with. So that is why I'm going to make a deselection. I start with a deselection rather than cherry picking because different moods determine what kind of game I like to play. And I need to avoid that I only pick the cherries that I want on this particular day. Also, perhaps needless to say, but just because these games do not work for me does not make them bad games. It's all about personal preferences. So let's go! In no particular order, but this is the first one. Cuba! Cuba is a high quality game for 2 to 5 players and it takes about 1.5 to 2 hours to play. The reason why I want to get rid of this game is because I also own Puerto Rico. It's a very similar game. Both games have a colonial theme with plantations and ships, and you need to manage resources, build buildings, play different roles, earn the most victory points. Even though Cuba is by far the prettiest, by far. Looking at this immediately ignites my desire to play the game. However, I do like the gameplay of Puerto Rico more. Cuba is also less complex when taking the mechanics of the game and the rules into account, but take care, it's still a complex game. I would not call this an easy game. So yeah, Cuba has great playability. There aren't really big drawbacks. I can't think of any, at least. And for that reason, I can recommend Cuba, depending on what you want from a game. The games are just too similar for me to justify owning both, and that's the reason. And that's the reason why I'm going to deselect Cuba. Goodbye. Thank you. For these games, you need a minimum of 3 players, and I live in a household of 2. That means that I can only play this game when there are a minimum of 3 players in the house. They want to play a game, and I want to play one of these games. Bohnanza, the first one. I like this game. I also like the graphics. I found them very funny. It's based on the mechanics of trading and politics, and you need to plant beans and then sell the surplus. Funny graphics, easy rules. The only downside for me is that it's very hard for me to find 2 other people who want to play this game with me. If I owned the anniversary edition, I would have kept the game because it includes a version for 2 players, but I don't, and that is why Bohnanza. To bean or not to bean, we have to part. Thank you. This is a birthday gift. It's a game I received because it receives a lot of good reviews, and the person who gave this to me knows that I like to play a game or like to play games, and yeah, 4 players. That's difficult for me. It's not that I don't have friends, it's just that when I have friends who come over and want to play a game with me, I prefer a game that I already know the rules of so that we can play immediately or when it contains a beautiful board. So for that reason, I will deselect the great Dalmuti. I owned it for over 10 years now and the time has come. It's okay. Deselect. Thank you. Joking Hazard was also a birthday gift. It can be compared to Cards vs. Humanity, but then with comics. And it can be very dark. And the person who makes the funniest comic wins, and this is achieved through offensive dark humor. So for me it feels a bit forced, and I guess it could work if you have a group of friends that have the same sick, dark kind of humor. But for me, deselect. Thanks. PimPamPet. I think I own this game for at least 30 years. PimPamPet is a Dutch game where players spin a wheel, take turns drawing cards, and come up with answers that start with the spun letter. Think of a sport, a kitchen item, or a name, could be anything. It's similar to Scattergories in the US, Le Petit in France, or Stadt, Fluss in Germany. And I also own a Stadt, Fluss game that uses cards instead of the wheel. And because the PimPamPet wheel has been seemingly forever, I'm going to deselect this game from my collection. Thank you for all these years. Goodbye. The Friends and Family game. This tin contains 100 questions for young and old. We received this game as a wedding present, but I think this game is more fun when you play it with people you don't really know that well, or if you're the kind of person who's afraid to ask questions. Because it contains questions like, what games did you often play as a child? Are you a collector? Do you like your work? If you live with somebody, you can probably provide most of these answers yourself. So I'm going to make somebody else happy with this game. Deselect. Small tin. In Kwatro you need to create rows of 4, like so. The rules are easy to learn and make sense. But even though it's a small tin, the game does take a lot of space, and you also need additional pen and paper. I bought this game to play on vacation, especially in the tent, but I guess I should have done my homework because the game is just too big for a small tent. On top of this, I also would get bored during the game while playing it, and it takes about 20 minutes, so very easy for me to deselect. Escape Room, the game challenge! Okay, this box contains 48 cards, and the goal is to solve as many cards, as many puzzles in 10 minutes. I find this game very enjoyable, but once the puzzles are solved, there's no further replay value, and that is why this game is deselected. However, I already own part 2, the second challenge. I'm looking forward to playing that one. But this one, deselect. Bye. Thank you. And now it's time for a break. Enough! Stay tuned for the second part of this video. Thanks for watching. See you soon. See you there. Click.